Welcome to Hear Me Out, where we feel like we have to make a disclaimer that we're not experts, although we may convince you we are. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not Trevor Bauer deserves a long-term deal in the MLB. Jesse, we can start with you on this.
No, Josh. Here's my
Compelling
thing.
argument.
Here's my thing. Trevor Bauer's been in the league for quite some time now. I think 6 to 7 years. He's never been a top of the rotation pitcher. He's been a middle back of the rotation 4 ERA pitcher. He pitched won a Cy Young in this last season. Here's the thing though. Before that season, he signed a 1-year deal with the Reds, kind of a prove me deal. And he feels he did go out and prove himself. I disagree. I think he pitched maybe 9, 11 games. A typical season, a starting pitcher, especially an ace, will pitch 35 starts. They'll start 35 games. Yeah. He pitched maybe 9 to 11. And the schedules, you got to look at the schedule. So this year you were restricted to playing your division and the equivalent division in the opposite league. So he was in the NL Central. He played the NL Central and the AL Central. The two worst divisions in baseball in terms of offense. 5 out of the bottom 9 lineups in baseball were in those two divisions. He faced them 7 times. He's pitching against bad teams. That's not to discredit him. Those are MLB players. Anything can happen on a baseball field. You can go out and give up 11 runs to the Detroit Tigers. It can happen. And I know he went and he played his one game in the playoffs. I think they played the Braves. He shut them down. They lost 1-0. He pitched great. I'm just saying he signed a show-me deal. And through no fault of his own, it's not his fault that the season was shortened, but he didn't show me. He's not going to get a long-term deal from me after an 11-game stretch. In the middle of seasons, pitchers have 11-game stretches where they're super dominant, and then they end with a bad season because the other 29 starts, whatever, they're not great. I didn't see enough.
Yeah, I think mine is like 70% no, 30% yes, like a small asterisk in there. So for the most part, it's no secret that in all sports, not just baseball, whenever guys are in the league for a while and they have many, many years of mediocre or less play and then one good year, usually you can count on the years prior to the big year as the indication for his success moving forward. It's usually fool's gold. Those guys get excuse me, I'm talking. Thank you. Usually those guys get...
I'm allergic to bullshit, sorry.
Usually those guys get, their big contracts and everyone's excited, and then it turns out they're not actually that good. And you're like, oh, okay, so he just wasn't that good. And I think there's a good possibility this is the case again. I mean, he's been in the league for several seasons, and he was never overtly bad, but it was just fairly average pitching play with one really good season. You covered a lot of the things about the season, so I won't. But, there's some asterisks next to the big season that he had. But I think that outside of that, I think for the right team, throwing him a bigger deal would make sense. And here's why. As we've talked about before in our episode on overpaid versus overrated, we talked about certain positions in sports just command a lot of money because they're important. Pitchers in baseball are important. They cost a lot of money. They just do. And you can get a great pitcher and throw a lot of money at him, or you can get an okay pitcher. You're probably still going to have to throw too much money at him. It's just how it is. He's going to get more money than he deserves. That's just the reality of the situation. So if you're a team that needs a pitcher, he is a pitcher. And like I said before, he's not overtly bad. So you're going to overpay him to get a solid pitcher onto your team. For some teams with a bad bullpen, that is important. That's what they need. I think also a lot of times off the field, he's a very vocal person, very boisterous person, to the dismay of probably a lot of people watching. But one thing he brings is absolutely personality. So if you're looking for someone who's going to come in and bring some identity to your team, maybe you're kind of falling into the obscurity of the MLB. You haven't been that good for a long time. Not a lot of pizzazz, if you will. Trevor Bauer is the kind of signing that's going to spark interest. He's going to add personality to your team. And for a lot of these low-tier kind of identity-less teams that are at the bottom of the MLB, that's really important for them. But for a team that already has a strong rotation of pitchers and a strong bullpen who just needs another rotational pitcher who can come in, I think that could set them over the edge to give them a rotation and a bullpen of pitchers. When you have that many good pitchers, it can be really hard to beat a team like that.
So I agree with one thing you said, that I argued in my video about Bryce Harper that Bryce Harper's value to the Phillies goes beyond his value on the field. And I think Trevor Bauer is a guy who's also like that. I know he's controversial. He's a little bit political. But on the other hand, he is the largest social media following of any MLB players. He has his own YouTube channel. He's super active on Twitter. He interacts with the fans all the time. There was a poll of best baseball Twitter accounts that he just won recently. He's popular. He's a popular player. That plays into his value. So I could see paying for that. He's going to move jerseys. He's going to move tickets. He's going to move interactions. I get that.
Right.
At the same time, he is going to command ace money. He's going to command that he's paid the largest salary of any pitcher on whatever team he goes to, barring he signs with the Yankees, which he won't because of his issues with Garrett Cole, and they couldn't afford him. But barring a few teams that have, the best pitchers in the league, he's going to want to be paid as the ace. And I think that is a recipe for getting you fired as a GM. I think paying Trevor Bauer a long-term deal, and I know he's considering short-term deals too, but paying him a long-term deal with ace money is basically signing your own pink slip, filing it, and just waiting. You said, and I think you were correct, that one seasons are typically flukes, and that's true in general. That's especially true during a pandemic season when he only pitched 9 or 11 games. That is so clearly fluke potential that I cannot imagine looking at that and thinking, let's make this guy our next franchise pitcher. I think GMs are smarter than that. I think there's a reason. He says the reason is because he's weighing all his options. He's keeping fans posted on his free agent decisions. Rachel Lupa, his agent, is on Twitter answering questions all the time. I don't think that's true. I think and I don't have any inside information, this is just my gut. I think the real reason is teams understand that it's likely a fluke season, and they're hesitant to pay him what he wants. I think that's a reason he's still a free agent. And he will be, I think, until training camp. But at the same time, I get that he is a big personality. He drives interactions. You could pay him a little bit more. I don't see getting him that much more, and I don't see signing him long-term at all. I don't think anything more than 2 years makes sense. You just don't know with him. And I get he's improved every year a little bit. He's gotten a little bit better. If you watch his YouTube channel, he's a data fiend. He's super into the game. He understands it. But at some point, talent just overcomes hard work, and I just don't think he has the talent.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sports, your consistency is more important than your splashes, but that's especially true in baseball. For the fans who watched your Bryce Harper segment, you touched on the fact that in baseball there's always a splash of luck in what's happening.
Yeah.
You can do everything right and it still goes wrong for no reason at all, or you can do everything wrong and it still goes right. That can just be how baseball works.
Yeah.
So in baseball, it's especially important to show consistent success, and that's not something he's done. So I understand that. Every year in every sport, there's some guy who's not that good, who gets paid like he's the best at his position by some team who's so void of talent that they are just grasping for straws. Because guess what? The bottom tier teams that are going to pay Trevor Bauer to be their ace rotational pitcher, those guys are probably, a bit in the hot seat already, the teams that are looking at that. So, are you looking at the fact that, we're one of the worst teams in the MLB and I might get fired, but signing Trevor Bauer is going to put me over the edge? No, they're grasping for straws at that point. So is this play going to warrant ace pitcher money? No, it's not. Does that mean that whatever, bottom of the barrel team decides to give him a huge contract will regret signing him? I don't think they will. If it's in that scenario, I think if a team with a good rotation, excuse me, a team with a good rotation pays him not best in the MLB money, but even if they give him top of the rotation money, but that gives them a lot of success due to their strong rotation, I don't think they'll regret it. I just think a mid-level team paying him ace money to be their ace, I think that's the only team that regrets paying Trevor Bauer that kind of money.
So I think that makes sense, and I think like you said, if you have a strong rotation already and you add him to the middle of that rotation, it's going to protect him a bit. He's not going to have to pitch the hardest games. He's not going to have to go up against the best pitchers.
Exactly.
It makes sense. It makes sense. I still wouldn't give him a multi-year deal just because I don't see how you could, based on 11 games, sign him for 6-7 years. I don't see that happening. I also want to end this by saying I know Trevor is very active on social media and the internet. If he ever sees this, Trevor, this is not hating on you. I wish you all the success, and I hope you get paid the most you can make. I hope you get paid whatever you want. I'm just saying from a analytical standpoint.
And Trevor, if you're watching this, I want you to keep in mind which one of the two hosts of Hear Me Out was defending you through this video. I want you to keep that in mind. So,
I think this screams Nick Foles to me.
Yeah.
Really small sample size, was a very elite in the sample size, but all of his other play and all the rest of his career didn't match it. He got this big deal, and I promise you the Chicago Bears wish they had the cap that they spent on Nick Foles right now. I would not sign the guy long term.
Perfect analogy.
Huge deal. And so it seems foolish to me to throw that guy a massive deal with his lack of previous success, and then this tiny little bit of really good play. But if you do, and he's really good for the rest of his career, whatever reason, you look like a rock star as a GM, and that can be nice.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah, I think that's about all we have for this one. Let us know what you think, Trevor. If you're watching. Come on, man. That's all we have. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.